Hi, welcome to Parenting in the Age of AI. I'm so glad you could join us today. This week, we're talking all about one of the most important things that families are facing and schools are facing together right now, and that is the need to build a shared AI language. So I wanted to let you know, hi, I'm Aimee Love. I'm a parent just like you, and I'm the founder of Discovering AI. And every Wednesday for about 10-15 minutes, we spend a little time talking about issues that are really relevant to us as parents. And it is our hope that you leave this conversation with at least a single insight that you can use and bring forth in conversations with your family today, or perhaps over the week or this weekend. So again, welcome and thank you for joining us. Now, over the past several weeks, we've been talking about AI readiness is no longer optional. And we've been talking about why AI literacy is becoming a life skill and why the Family AI Game Plan helps parents create that clarity around values, boundaries, and expectations. And it's really unique when we think about it, what kind of summer actually offers us. And I'll get to that in just a second. But when we think about it, I want us to think about it that this week's topic is really all around the gap that can quietly create confusion for children, home, and school. And it's because we use different words. We sometimes use different expectations, or maybe we simply just use vague phrases that we expect children to interpret on their own. And with a technology that is so new and changing so quickly, these vague statements can really create confusion and lack of alignment on an essential need between families and schools with correct guidance for our children. So when we think about that, I want to share that this week's session and why it really matters now in the summer is that the summer truly gives us as families something the school year rarely ever gives us, and that's breathing room. My daughter, she got to sleep until 9 this morning. We weren't up at 7 trying to rush get breakfast done and get her off and out to school. Once school starts, that's going to change and become the routine again. So when we think about it, this breathing room in the summer allows us to address some of these newer, broader, nuanced discussions in a way that once the school year starts, we rarely have the chance to dive in. Because AI questions, they're going to show up under pressure. Your child's going to be tired, an assignment is going to be due, a teacher's direction may not be very clear. And maybe as a parent, I certainly find I'm in this situation. I'm trying to juggle dinner, work, activities, and everything else. And so it's not the ideal moment to define our family's AI values for the first time in that sort of rush and hustle. So that's why the summer is really a unique time for us to collectively think about how are we going to build the language before the conflict. It's a time to talk about what kind of AI feels appropriate for your particular family. What crosses a line? And what your child should do when school expectations are unclear. Now, this doesn't have to be a heavy conversation. It can be a short conversation in the car, at the kitchen table, during a quiet moment, at home, maybe while you're all out walking the dog in the evening. The reality is summer provides an opportunity for practice time, while the school year is really game time. So we're talking about this week's how do we create that shared understanding between families and schools? And the reality is that this is the gap that must be closed. AI now sits directly at the intersection of family values and school expectations. Now, schools are responsible for helping students learn and demonstrate understanding and use technology appropriately. And families really are the first place where children learn what it means to develop values, judgment, honesty, responsibility, and confidence. Now, many schools run character counts and other programs that reinforce that. But the reality is in the family environment, that child's going to look to you for that guidance and that direction. And with AI, it touches both what schools are responsible for primarily and what families are responsible for primarily. So the challenge is, if we think about it, many children are hearing phrases like, Hey, just use AI responsibly. Do your own work. AI can help. It just cannot cheat for you. And these phrases, they sound pretty reasonable to us as adults because we have a lot more experience and we can apply the context and the understanding behind it and the judgment that's required with those statements. But yet for our children, these can be hard to apply in the moment unless we explain what they actually mean. And so a way to think about this as parents is vague language creates confusion and shared language creates confidence. And so when we think about it from the standpoint of from trusted adults around them, if a teacher says AI is a shortcut, a parent says AI is a helpful tool, and another adult says just use it responsibly, a child may not know what to do when they're actually sitting in front of an assignment or an AI tool. The reality is this is not a failure of character on behalf of the child. It's often just a failure of clarity. And what children need is not just rules, especially with a technology like this that is changing every single day. Instead, they need language they can use. They need to understand the difference between AI as a shortcut, AI as support, and AI as a skill. Now, this is where families can lead with calm, practical conversations before the school year begins. Now, I want to share something really important about this and share that this is really going on across the country. And I want to compliment, there are many schools out there that are actively driving proactive conversations and others that are trying to create these programs in their systems. And I wanted to highlight one public school system in particular for our conversation today, and that is the Charlotte Mecklenburg public school system. They have an entire AI for Families education program available online and is an integral part of the schools helping the parents and the families be as ready as the students themselves. And if you were to go to their website, you'll see that they're underscoring the very simple and very important premises that we talk about. And that is to start and encourage AI conversations. This is what families can do to navigate AI safely and responsibly at home. It starts with a conversation. And then discuss personal and school AI use. That's what we talk about all the time, that it's a 24/7 technology and where it comes. And then set clear boundaries about when and how AI tools can be used, helping create those healthy habits. And then finally support learning the difference between ethical, what is right, and unethical, wrong ways to use AI. Now, AI has the potential to be a huge democratization for access to additional support and tutors in the world's information, but it won't be a democratization tool if it's used to supplant learning or replace it. So when we talk about family phrases and what we really mean, we talk about it at Discovering AI along the lines of using 3 simple categories that families can adopt and discuss with their children. And that is, first, when is AI allowed? And this is where AI can be used independently for things like brainstorming or exploring a topic, checking understanding, getting feedback, creating new ideas outside on personal projects. This is where it's very clear that the child can move forward. Now, the second one is where AI is allowed with guidance. This is a little bit more nuanced and really in the middle space, right? And this is where we talk about where AI may be useful, yet the assignment, the topic, or privacy concern even, or even the school expectations mean an adult should be part of the conversation. Essential. And then the third part is just flat out AI is not allowed. And this is when AI replaces the child's thinking, hides their true ability, or perhaps violates a teacher or school's expectations, or simply requires the sharing of private information. Now, the power of this framework is that it gives families a practical follow-up question. And that is, you can ask, is this allowed with guidance or not allowed? That question takes the vagueness away and helps children build better judgment, not just compliance. So when we think about this, I like to talk about it from the standpoint of shared language that works best when it becomes simple enough to repeat. So here are a few phrases you might want to bring into your family's conversations. And that is, perhaps, AI can coach you. It cannot replace you. Or perhaps you can use AI to understand, but not to hide what you actually know or don't know. If you cannot explain it, it's not yet yours. When in doubt about whether or not AI is allowed or not, simply ask the teacher first. And your voice matters more than a perfect answer. These are not just rules, they are values in action. Language that becomes habit, and habit becomes judgment. So when we think about this, I like to share that families do not need to wait for the perfect AI policies to start building clarity at home. You can start with your child this summer. What does your teacher usually say about AI and online tools? You can ask them that right now, because it will be interesting to see, even once they start school back up in the fall, if they come back and share with you that some of what my teachers have said in the past has started to change, or it's become more open or more tight. These are going to be important conversations that you're comfortable having now, as well as in the school year. Perhaps it's around, what do you think counts as real help versus doing the work for you? Having these value discussions right now, when it's not the night that the homework assignment is due, allows for the calmness and the reflection to come forth. What about, what or when might AI get in the way of your learning or building your own skills? And if you do that, when school starts and the teacher says, how do you define, I should say, when school starts and your student goes back, they can ask the teacher, how do you define acceptable AI use in the class for assignments and at home? And what that does is it really demonstrates to the teacher that they're building a values-based alignment and partnership to ensure that they can learn and perform well, yet also use this technology in a way that will help them grow in development, and also still learn the critical skills that they need that we don't want AI to replace. So with that, these two conversations truly build what I call a bridge. So if you take that in mind, we also at Discovering AI put out every single Friday a Mind Spark activity. And this Mind Spark activity is something you can do with your family every Friday, and it provides, or over the weekend, and it provides a structured way in which you can bring to life these conversations. So this week's Mind Spark is really all about expanding upon this shared understanding and shared language. And we're calling it the AI translation game. And it's, do you know what using AI responsibly really means? And it's acknowledging that sometimes adult conversations can be a little bit vague and hard for kids to understand or interpret. So by playing this game, we really get to the reality of, what does it really mean to use AI in a way that supports the learning and the growth? So when we think about it, I like to think about it from the standpoint of this week's Mind Spark. The goal is simple. It is to help your child translate those vague statements into something they know what they should do before school starts. So you could start with 3 common phrases. You could start off with, use AI responsibly. How many parents, how many times have we or heard their teachers or ourselves say, use AI responsibly? How many times have we as parents said, just do your own work? Do your own work. Don't worry about what others are doing, or don't worry about AI, just do your own work. And then what about AI can help, it just cannot cheat for you? How you can see how this can be interpreted by our children as being vague is to then ask your kid, what do you think this means? When would this be confusing? And when would you need an adult to explain more clearly what their expectations are. And pretty soon you'll hear from their responses that maybe those vague statements aren't as clear as what we know we mean from the judgment we have from years of life experience. So when you think about it, the phrase use AI responsibly might become use AI to help you think, not avoid thinking. Or when we think about do your own work, it might become your ideas, your words, your understanding. That needs to come first. If you can demonstrate that, then you can use AI. Or perhaps it's AI can help, it cannot just cheat for you. That's still pretty vague. Maybe it becomes AI can explain, it can brainstorm, or it can coach, but it cannot complete the assignment for you. That's a much more specific language. So when we think about this, I really want to underscore that this week's newsletter that came out today and this week's MindSpark that will come out on Friday, and you can find the links in the comments. It's an opportunity for each of us as parents, and by the way, I do this every single week with my own daughter, is to choose one of those phrases, and your family can use this to come up with a way to relate with what school expectations and learning are. So try this one. If I were to say it, before we use AI, let's name what kind of help we're asking for. Again, if we say, before we use AI, let's name what type of help we're asking for. If we do, that allows us to kind of take a pause. It helps our child get clarity around their purpose, and it protects their learning and the use of AI with tremendously more integrity. And this is how we can use summer well. Not by creating one more assignment for families to do, or one more summer reading program or math worksheet that your child needs to do. Rather, what this does and provides for each of us is starting a clear conversation now that can prevent confusion later when the stress and the pressure of the school year begins. This is how we close the gap between home and school, one clear conversation at a time. Thank you for joining us. I just want to remind everyone that we do have our virtual Create camps that are still underway. We have sold out in June. We have spaces available, just a few, in August, and we have some openings in July. Up until Father's Day, we've got a 50% off promotion running. Just use the code Summer Special. And we'd love to see your child on one of our 6 essential traits that children need to develop to thrive in the age of AI. A lot of it is done off the computer as they're developing these 6 essential traits around critical thinking, resiliency, emotional intelligence, AI fluency, thinking creatively, and entrepreneurial mindset and initiative. Those are the 6 essential Create traits. I want to remind you that is available for all. And as always, I thank you for investing your time today to be part of the Discovering AI, Parenting in the Age of AI conversations. I wish you the very best as the week continues. Thank you.